Boom shakalaka. What is going on, everybody? Randall here from Crypto Love, and I am joined today by Simon Dixon, the CEO of BnkToTheFuture. What's going on, Simon?
Hey, thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Yeah, it's awesome to have you here. So we've got a big project to talk about today, BnkToTheFuture. Before we get into BnkToTheFuture, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your history, how you got into cryptocurrencies and stuff like that?
Yeah, sure. So I was working in investment banking. I left in 2006 to return to, my studies in economics. And I was never satisfied with economics and how they explain money. So I'm a real finance geek that really studied money and gave presentations around the world on the subject. But the thing was, it was 2006 and no one really cared. It wasn't until the financial crisis that people actually cared. And I gave a few lectures on the subject and happened to bump into someone that was one very early Bitcoin developer. I remember he actually quit his job in order to invest in Bitcoin. This was 2011. And he invited me to speak at the very first Bitcoin conference in the world in Prague. So I spoke about the difference between Bitcoin and banking. I was writing a book at the time on the future of money, and that was the very first published book in the world that covered Bitcoin. I was also founding BnkToTheFuture.com, and that was designed to invest in the fintech sector and try and invest in some of the innovative banks and stuff that was popping up at the time. It wasn't really until Bitcoin actually started to get traction that I realized there was a whole new model that really didn't involve banks. And so we started using the platform exclusively to invest in the industry. And we did seed rounds and funding rounds for over 100 of the most valuable companies in the industry, from Bitfinex to Kraken to Bitstamp to Shapeshift, and everything in between. And so we built a really nice portfolio in the industry because no one was interested in investing in the industry back then. And really saw the growth of tokens. We were early investors in things like the very first ICOs like Mastercoin and Ethereum. The people through BnkToTheFuture.com, people are investing in many of these early projects. And I guess that kind of leads to where we are today, as being somebody that's the platform's now invested about 600 million in the industry across different funding rounds over its time. I've always been an evangelist for Bitcoin and just watched this industry grow from 40 people in a room at that very first Bitcoin conference to, a multi-billion-dollar market cap that it is today, and just delighted to see what I think is one of the most exciting times in financial history, thanks to where we are.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive path that you've come along. Now, you mentioned that you did invest in a lot of the big companies like Bitstamp, Shapeshift, Bitfinex, Kraken, BitPesa. How is that involved with BnkToTheFuture as we know it now? Did that took place beforehand and then now?
Yeah, it was. So when I wrote my book, BnkToTheFuture, I was convinced that technology was going to disrupt traditional finance one step at a time. And we spent about 4 years trying to secure the correct regulatory environment and all the registrations that we needed to allow people to invest online in private equity. And so really, one of the things was that I was very convinced that this industry was going to do disruption in the traditional financial sector, but I had no ideas where and which companies were going to do it. So really, when our investments in Bitcoin did so well, we didn't really need to use BnkToTheFuture.com to attract VCs or anything. And we were self-funded through our crypto investments. So we just used the platform in order to get exposure to and get invited to many of the funding rounds that the big VCs were looking at. And this was before the VCs as well. So all of my investments happened through BnkToTheFuture.com. So I am one of the customers as well as the founder. And really, I just wanted to build a really diverse portfolio in anything that was going to disrupt the future of finance. Anything we were investing in, we allowed our investors through the platform to co-invest with us. And that's how it all fits together, really.
Okay, gotcha. So you had a successful ICO where you raised $33 million, correct?
Yeah, we did an ICO last year. We did a token sale. So
Hmm. All right. And so,
actually, that was this year. Jesus, in crypto, things move fast.
yeah, they definitely do. Things are changing. And so, what are you doing with those ICO funds that maybe you weren't doing before?
Well, for us, it was actually about really getting on board the token ecosystem. So obviously, we were doing everything through equity. And we built the platform to allow for global investors around the world to be able to invest in equity of these companies. And all of a sudden, I do remember it was in the period of about 3 months I think it was either 2016 or 2017, time runs away with me, when a lot of our customers that we were doing equity rounds for suddenly pivoted to doing token sales. All of a sudden, none of our investors wanted to invest in equity anymore because they were getting such high returns investing in tokens. So really, when we did our token sale, we wanted to create a regulatory environment whereby these things could be sold as securities, but could still be traded on exchanges as utility tokens. We knew that at some point the regulations are going to kick in. And so really our token sale was just, we wanted to show that there's a compliant way of doing it. We weren't doing it as a funding round. We were already a profitable business. We already funded through our platform, through selling equity. But we wanted to create a token ecosystem whereby it would solve some of the problems we were experiencing on our platform. And so we sold, we did that token sale for that, as opposed to trying to fund the business as a funding round.
Yeah. And how does the token work in the ecosystem? Is it a security token? Is it a utility token?
So it's actually a utility token, but we sold the initial contract to receive the tokens as an investment. So this is how we believe we did it in compliance with international securities laws. The way that what the token was designed for was to actually solve three of the major problems we were experiencing on the platform. So the first is that as the industry grew, originally it was very hard to find investors for this industry. That's why we had to set up a global structure, because our original license registration only allowed us to take on UK companies and UK investors. And you can imagine in the early days of crypto, there was very few companies in the UK, and you had to have a global audience until you could actually find enough funding for these companies. That's why we went global and started thinking about these things. As the industry grew and liquidity grew and the whole world, it felt like in 2017, got interested in this industry, our funding rounds were just getting sold out very, very fast. So we wanted to create a membership tier whereby if you owned a certain number of tokens, then you could have them on the platform and get priority access and membership that give you different access. The other thing we noticed is that we were growing faster, and we couldn't, we went up to a peak of about 30 applications per day. Now, we only take on very few deals because we do a lot of due diligence, but we also wanted to rely upon and have our community engage and help us in the due diligence of these projects. So we could use our token as a reward for a lot of we've got 65,000 investors on the platform now, all accredited high net worth or qualifying investors in their jurisdiction. And we wanted to create a token that could reward them for their supporting the companies in investor relations, supporting in due diligence. And then the final thing is that we wanted to reward our community because this year we're actually launching our secondary market, where not only did we invest in that equity, but now people would be able to buy it from previous investors and trade the equity in these companies via our structure. And people that hold the token, if they paid their trading fees using our token, then we wanted to give them a discount and reward our community for using the BF token as a way of paying that. And so those are the three user cases: payment for fees, membership for priority access, and rewards for conducting due diligence.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good use of the token. I'm curious. So like right now we're in somewhat of a bear market. And so being a YouTuber, I get to see the feedback of everybody. A lot of people are down right now about the market. They don't know where it's going. They don't know what's happening. So you've been in Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies for quite a while. What's your feeling about the market right now and where it's going?
Sure, yeah. So I've experienced my $30 Bitcoin become worth $3 in the past. That was a 90% drop. I've experienced my $1,250 Bitcoin become worth $250 after the Mt. Gox and the bear market that persisted. And I've also experienced my $20,000 Bitcoin become worth about $5,000 as we are right now, wherever that ends. It really feels almost identical, but you could add a few more zeros and much bigger numbers to exactly what we experienced after the Mt. Gox hack. So we had a complete overheated market where liquidity was being pumped in from people that didn't necessarily understand the economics of our industry. They didn't understand that Bitcoin gave you the ability to own your own money, spend your own money, and had a monetary policy that rewards long-term savings. And they didn't really understand that. They were in that for the speculation. So the price was pumped all the way up to 1,250. Then we get the big correction, and you end up with massive technological innovation and the people that believe and understand the industry hanging around. And then it takes about a year, it feels like, sometimes, for a lot of the technological innovation to come through, the market to correct itself, a lot of the support tickets to be answered. You know, some of the companies had a backlog of about 40,000 support tickets as they were trying to onboard the whole world to exchange their fiat for cryptocurrency. And also we had the ICO boom. So I see a very symmetrical situation to what we experienced before. And I think we're over halfway through what we experienced before. So I'd expect mid 2019 for some of this to actually come through. I'm not a short-term trader. I'm a long-term here. I believe the industry. I believe that Bitcoin gives people the ability to own their own money, spend their own money, and rewards the long-term saver rather than with traditional money rewards you for taking on debt. And it's our best shot at sound money. And sound money is worth a heck of a lot more than it is right now if it succeeds, or if it fails, it's worth nothing. So I think it's really a binary bet, and I think risk-reward adjusted is the best bet that you can make with money that you're willing to lose if it all goes wrong.
Mm-hmm. So in this type of market that we have right now, is this a good time for Bank to the Future because you're able to find those really good potential deals for when there is a next bull run?
Yeah, so we're shifting. It's times like this when I think the most opportunity arises, when the market normalizes. When Bitcoin's at $20,000 and the whole world is trying to buy it, we saw it in places like Korea where people were paying $25,000 for $20,000 Bitcoin because when you're trying to do what everyone else is doing, you tend to get the bad end of the deal if it all goes wrong. So right now is the best time if you are being paid in Bitcoin or being paid in Ethereum or whatever the token of your choice is, then this is the time to accumulate the most of it because the prices are cheap. And if you're denominating your services in dollars, then you're going to accumulate a lot more Bitcoin if you can sustain that. And then in terms of Bank to the Future, what we've seen is a shift. So the reason that we were put in such a strong position is because we accumulated equity when no one else was interested in accumulating. And we accumulated Bitcoin and Ethereum when the market wasn't really aware of what that was. And so this is that opportunity again for everybody, really. What we're seeing is a shift at the moment from we accumulated a lot of equity. We've been through about 6 different trends. We went through, originally there was the Bitcoin, the ultra high returns that were accumulated from being early into that. Then there was equity in companies as we got 3 or 4 unicorns that came as the equity market boomed. Then you had altcoins and, you either lost, you invested into a scam that went badly, or you invested in something and gave you ultra high returns. Then you had tokens and ICOs, and then you had hard forks where just for owning Bitcoin, you received a crypto dividend of a brand new cryptocurrency that you could either exchange for Bitcoin or you could hold it if you believed in what that fork was actually doing. And now what we're seeing is a shift towards assets, real value, security tokens. And all of a sudden, we were receiving just nobody would sell equity to now we're getting lots of applications for equity again. Our investors are demanding real assets, real accountability, contracts, agreements, after being burnt sometimes, but then also some people did very well. So we're shifting now towards the next wave, which I think is securities tokens, and the equities getting a bit of a revival as we get ready for the next bull market in this cycle that seems to repeat itself.
Gotcha. Now, people who want to buy BFT tokens, do they need to be accredited investors, or can they go and purchase them on exchanges?
So if you're in the US and you want to invest using our platform, you would need to be an accredited investor, register with our broker dealer in the US. If you're outside of the US, then it depends on the securities laws in your country. We've tailored that process. But in terms of BFT itself, we've already done the token issuance. Token issuance was sold as an investment contract in compliance with local securities laws. Now, if you want to actually, the token is actually a utility token, and therefore it's available for anyone that wants to purchase it on a cryptocurrency exchange. Right now, we've noticed, we don't control that process, but we've noticed that Bittrex, Bitfinex, Huobi, and some others, you can see them all on CoinMarketCap, have created markets where people can actually purchase those. So we're no longer selling our tokens, which was done as an investment contract and security, but the utility token you can purchase on a crypto exchange just like you would any other token from a secondary trade and someone selling it.
Okay, wonderful. So what are you guys working on now? What have you got coming up?
So at the moment, we're getting ready to launch the BF wallet. The BF wallet, the beta version, is just simply the wallet that allows people to connect it with their BnkToTheFuture.com account so that they can hold tokens, gain access to the membership, but without having to relinquish control, so that they can own the tokens on their own phone or their own device, but still get access to the membership and connect it with their BnkToTheFuture.com account. In October, we're looking to launch our secondary market that we discussed earlier, which is we've accumulated a lot of this equity, and now a lot of our investors might want to sell or cash in, or people want to buy on deals that they missed out on. So we're looking forward to launching the first secondary market for equity in blockchain and Bitcoin companies. And then in 2019, the goal is actually to rethink BnkToTheFuture.com from scratch and disrupt ourselves as if we were starting the company again today. So much has changed. And so we're looking to launch a brand new securities token exchange, which really takes advantage of the technology as it's become today, and really disrupt ourselves before someone else disrupts us.
Awesome. Sounds good. I wanted to tell you, so when I was first looking into Bank of the Future, this was months ago, I was looking at your website and I was like, this is too good to be true. They got a quote by Richard Branson. They have Vinnie Lingham and Michael Turpin as advisors. They've done all this stuff with all these different exchanges. I thought for sure, I was like, somebody's making this up, until I did more research into it. But definitely very impressive. So last thing,
we don't really tend to do too much marketing because we've always done stuff in compliance with securities laws, and we try to, some people, when they discover us, it's easy to think, because there were so many scams out there. I mean, we have people that applied for finance on our website that listed me as an advisor, and I knew nothing about the company. There's so much stuff out there that you do have to be skeptical, but we've been around a while, and you can speak to any of these people and they'll know who we are. So.
Yeah, definitely awesome. So last question I wanted to ask you is, what excites you the most about Bank to the Future?
I think it's really still, I think of all of this that we've seen, all of these ICOs, everything that we've seen, I'm still most excited by Bitcoin than anything else. I think that Bitcoin has the potential of the world's best shot we've ever seen at creating sound money. Now, right now, Bitcoin is the world reserve currency of cryptocurrencies. And I look forward to seeing it become a world reserve currency of currencies. I think to have a world reserve currency that's got no connection to any country in the world is a truly game-changing thing, and something I'm really excited about. When we saw Ethereum not really do what Bitcoin does, because it's a very different thing, but start to create disruption in the IPO market and the capital markets, we saw something really exciting there, and the ability for people to be able to issue securities globally and also utility tokens and decentralized movement. So I'm excited about what's happening there. The fact that Bitcoin looks like it's going to have a much bigger impact than we even originally imagined it would have in those early days. I'm excited to see the disruption of capital markets. I think that the best application of blockchain is actually financial markets, and really excited to see those things. And we're looking forward to investing further and see how this market grows. One thing I've learned is every 3 months of being involved in this market, while the big trends tend not to change too much, but it's any forecast beyond 3 months in this market, the crypto market tends to prove you wrong time and time again. So the only way to navigate this market, I think, is to actually be well diversified, and not get too stuck up in your own views, because the crypto market tends to prove you wrong time and time again.
Well, cool. That's a great outlook on things. So, for anyone who wants to find out more about Bank to the Future, where would you recommend they go?
So we've got a Telegram group. You've got to be aware, because there's lots of scammy groups that want to steal your money that pretend to be us. So make sure you find the real one. Hopefully we could put a link down or something. Mm-hmm. We're available on Twitter, and you can register at the site and see if you qualify to invest. Or if you're doing something interesting, apply for finance. We take a look at every application. We get a lot of applications. We don't do too many of them, but if you're doing something really interesting, then we'd love to look at it. Myself, best place to get me is on Twitter. My name on Twitter is @Simon Dixon Twit. Simon Dixon was taken, and I ended up with Twit after my name, and it kind of stuck, and so I'm still with that one.
Very nice. Well, Simon, thank you very much for joining us today. It's been a lot of fun. I think we learned a lot.
Okay, well, thanks for giving us a platform. One of the most important things, I think, in our industry is actually education. So, there's so much to learn. There's so much changing here. So we really honor content creators like yourself for bringing the message out there and doing really important work to grow adoption of our industry. So thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. You're welcome. Have a good one. Peace.
Thank you.